Hello. Hello, everybody. Hi, hi, hi. Well, welcome to Ask Me Anything. Oh, man. It's great to see you. Hi, Fiona, Lori, Diane, Barbara, Eliza. Always so grateful when Eliza comes on, all the way from Paris, France. She's logging in. I love it. And Fiona, you're coming to us from the UK, aren't you? Yeah. Christine, I like your background. Swimming with the dolphins. Hey, Diane, how are you? It's good to see you. And we have Nella's chair. Ah, there she is. Well, it's kind of wild and crazy out there, isn't it? Yeah. How you doing? Yep. Has anybody else noticed the up leveling of energy of late? Like in the last month? The intensity is getting higher, more chaos. And even if you don't watch TV or go on social media, the energy, just the energy itself, without any additional excitement, is enough to really bowl you over. So, how have you been coping? What have you been doing to cope? Just, I'm asking you a question. Nobody's gonna say.
I'll say,
Barbara, what have you been doing?
I tend to just try to get present, like gardening, watering, walking, like feeding people, showing up where people are calling out for people to support. Like just because if I think big picture, it's really dismal and overwhelming. So I just try to look at like what's around me that I can plug into.
Yeah, yeah. What's around you you can plug into? I think yeah, Lori, what are you doing?
Well, making sure I do the edge practice. And,
Yeah.
and then yesterday, it was such a sweet group at the rally,
Hmm.
the Good Trouble rally here. It was just sweet, sweet people.
Nice. Well, it's good to be surrounded by sweet people.
Yeah.
That's, I'd say that's number one on the list. And I know we attempt to attract that. Hey, Rita, there's my Rita. And Mark, how are you? It's so good to see you. Lovely. So I just was asking, what are you guys doing to cope with the intensity of the energy? It's a universal intensity. It's not just it's not just politics. It's not just governmental stuff. It's not bureaucratic. The intensity is energetic, and the whole planet is feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. It's profound. And so the question is, what are we doing? What are we doing to cope with that? How are we coping? And the suggestions that have been made have been fantastic. So what else? One more person. What else are you doing to cope with it? Yeah, Diane.
Or really anchoring into my core, really feeling that the currents flowing down and spending time in nature, connecting with trees, really just rooting into my structure in nature, connecting,
Mm.
grounding to kind of shift out of the whole, yeah, to really root in and ground.
Yeah, I think it's really important to keep your perspective, you know? And two of you have mentioned gardening and grounding into the earth and that, and then surrounding yourself by with nice people. But so that's what I'm doing. I'm gardening like crazy. I'm just like, every morning I go out and water the babies, and here where I live in Northern California, it gets hot, and so we water in the morning before the babies wake up, just to help them wake up in the soft dew. And it's great because I wear my flip-flops, so my feet get wet, and I'm walking around and my feet are wet in the garden. And I don't know what the deal is with that, but it feels really good. So I'd urge wet feet in the morning walking outside is that's awesome. We want to think elementally, right? Yeah, Elisa, what are you doing in Gay Paris, in the city?
I'm working a lot with secret anatomy energy medicine. Actually, it's a moment where there's a lot of people who is asking for support, and I'm giving a lot of support, and it is helping me. I've just remarked that doing work for others is helping me to stay focused, in tune, and balanced. Actually, yes, I think I'm coping doing work.
Well, that's also something that I'm doing. And I've always found that to be true, Elisa, that when I'm feeling a little like, is life okay? If I just do a little bit of work on somebody else, even if it's just for a few minutes, or even if I just listen to somebody's story, I feel fantastic. So, Diane, you're saying the effects of grounding with bare feet on the earth is increased when the feet are wet. Oh, yeah. Wet grass is great. Concrete also works if dirt or grass isn't available, because concrete is, the Romans used concrete. It's been around a long time.
A form of dirt, yes.
A form of dirt. It is indeed. It is indeed. So, okay, I'm ready. I'm here. Ask me anything. Let's go. Is there a question, Cheryl? Is there one in the chat?
There's not one in the chat.
Not one. All right.
There's Christine with her hand up. All right.
And Mark. All right, we got a line going here. Go, Christine.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm really excited today because it became just super clear. I thought, oh gosh, ask Desda anything, what? And I got, core sheath and anxiety. So if you want to speak with that around that, that would be just great.
Okay, well, those are two topics for me. So core sheath is one topic and anxiety is another topic. So which would you like me to attack first?
Anxiety and fear.
All right, here we go. So anxiety in the sacred anatomy is a symptom of not enough energy in the electromagnetic field. It's a symptom of electromagnetic, like, porosity. And what that means is that if that's happening, if you're experiencing anxiety, and that can show up in a lot of different ways. Anxiety can be looping, excessive perseverating on something. It can be physical contraction. It can be heart palpitations. Anxiety is ranges from panic to mild irritation. So it's got a big spectrum. So if you think you might be experiencing anxiety, chances are you've been merging. So how do we merge? Hi, Otilla. Nice to see you. And Donald. All right. And of course, I'm just so glad you're all here. Welcome to Ask Me Anything. What can I say? I will make an attempt. So anxiety builds up as lack. So it's actually about lack, not too much. People have for years thought anxiety is about overwhelm, but it's not about overwhelm. It's about not having enough energy to meet the moment. So when we have as much as we need to meet the moment of our life, we don't get anxious. We get excited. We get engaged. We get creative. We get thoughtful. We get provoked. We get involved, right? But when we don't have enough energy to meet the moment, anxiety is the symptom that shows up. So how do we deal with that? Well, learning the edge practice, which is something we teach at the Sacred Anatomy Academy. Yes, it is. And it's the cornerstone skill for sacred anatomy energy medicine, but it's really a cornerstone skill for living. You know, originally I called it the stance for living. It's how we approach, how we use our entire energy structure to approach life. So if you're using the edge, you're already, you know, kind of got a leg up a little bit, because you're using your entire subtle structure to interact and relate to the world. And you don't normally do that. Human beings do not use consciously their energetic structure just out the gate. Well, maybe out the gate. Babies seem to be pretty good at it. But by the time they're about 1.5 years old, babies are no longer using their edge, you know? So that would be you. If you're not using your edge. And so the edge in and of itself is at the edge of the subtle anatomy. So I'll show you a picture here. So here's my picture of my book. So the sacred anatomy is all of this business, and around the edge is where we place our awareness. So when we place our awareness at the edge, we're encompassing the whole thing, all of it. So the excitement for us is that we can then, hey, Judson, we can then incorporate the totality of who and what we are into our life experience. So a lot of the nervousness and fear and anxious, I don't know, is because we're not really using the totality of who we are to interact. We have all we need. We are all we need. We have it all. But consciousness is required, because the sacred anatomy is the anatomy of consciousness. So if you are not awake to your own conscious self, if you don't know that you have more than a physical body, that you are in fact moving through life in a sacred anatomy, you cannot even begin to look at the electromagnetic field. Because this is what's happened in most energetic healing. Most energetic healing is done from the edge of the electromagnetic field. That's about, well, when people get really good at the electromagnetic field, it can get really big. It can go out 8, 9, 10 feet. The sacred anatomy is 20 feet out. It's much larger, but it's not about size. It's about where we have awareness. So the electromagnetic field is this smaller field, and it's measurable. It is, there it is, the big green blob in the middle. That's a measurable field. It's used when we do, EEGs and EKGs, and lots of things use human electromagnetic field to reflect, because the electromagnetic field is in fact a reflective field. So it is a different energy than the sacred anatomy. The sacred anatomy is subtle energy. The electromagnetic field is electromagnetic energy. So when your electromagnetic energy is leaking because you've merged with someone, you've engaged with someone and interlaced with them, your electromagnetic field moving into another person's electromagnetic field, the subtle anatomy then has to cope with that. So two things happen. One is your electromagnetic field gets diffused, dispersed, and becomes more porous, so you're more vulnerable. And the other thing that happens is that your subtle anatomy tries to process whatever it is you've engaged with. So you've engaged with another person, let's say. Your subtle anatomy is trying to clear that other person. So healers who do other forms of healing that don't use the edge practice are in fact using their own electromagnetic fields to engage with and clear and heal other people. So it is my humble opinion, after 50 years of experience, my humble opinion is, don't do that. Because what works, what's safe, and what's healthy for you is to keep your electromagnetic field strong, because it's your personal chi field. And why do you need your personal chi? You need it to survive. You need it to be healthy. You need it to not live in anxiety. All right? So, keeping your electromagnetic field strong also means having a positive relationship with electrical appliances, such as your phone or your computer or your microwave or your Tesla or your Prius or whatever kind of car you drive. All those things have electromagnetic fields that are machine-driven, electrically driven. There's even electromagnetic energy emitting from the earth. There are cell towers that send microwave signals through the air. Now, do you really think that a cell signal doesn't harm people? Do you really think that pointed stick that's moving through the air like a spear, when it moves through your structure, doesn't hurt it? And in any way. So what we found when people started using cell phones with any kind of frequency, which was, really the late 90s, that's really when cells became more popular and everybody had one. And everybody was using the computer around the beginning of the 90s. But by the end of the 90s, there were phones and other things that were happening. And living in the San Francisco Bay Area, I knew a lot of people who were getting hit with huge amounts of electromagnetic energy working in the tech field. So we had to figure out how to deal with it. And I went into meditation for 3 months and finally got an awareness. And here's the awareness. The awareness that I had was that electromagnetic energy, whether it's a disturbance or not, is simply energy. So there's a foundational principle of sacred anatomy, which is energy is intelligent. Okay? So energy is intelligent. That means all energy is intelligent. No matter what kind of energy is, it's intelligent. Okay, so that's not human intelligence, Don't be silly. But it is intelligent. And when something is intelligent, it can be communicated with, like an octopus, for example, or a dolphin. We can communicate with them, right? I mean, how about your cat, or your dog? You talk to them. You communicate. Horses, we talk to. All kinds of animals. The ants try to come into my house. I tell them to go out, and they leave. So it's a matter of communication. Okay, so here we've got these electromagnetic huge disturbances and impulses coming towards us. How do we stop them from invading our space, which is our own electromagnetic field, our chi field, which is meant to be used, I may need to lift a car off of the baby, I may need to run to get away from the mountain lion that's chasing me down the hill. I may need to be prepared in a moment when there's an earthquake. I may need to grab my kid and run into an open field. So I need my chi field, right? I mean, come on. We need it to survive. As we're animals. We're mammals. And we need to survive. The species needs to survive. So the chi field is about that. Now, when you die, what happens to your chi field? You think it stays? No, it's out of here because it's generated by the signals and the impulses from your brain and your heart and your cells. So when you die, it goes. It just goes. It vanishes. The minute the brain stops working and the heart stops working, the body's already in deterioration. The body's already going back to the earth. And the chi field has lifted, and the chi field will stay, sort of hover around and kind of go like, well, I guess this is it. I think I'm going to go now. And it takes about 3 days to dissipate. So when that happens, we are simply the sacred anatomy. So what do we do if there's all these impulses that are moving through our bodies? And I'm getting more and more anxious because my electromagnetic field is losing more and more energy. My own personal chi is drifting out, and I'm trying to do a massage on somebody and I'm merging with them, and the energy's coming up my arms and I can feel it in my shoulders. You remember that, right? So what do? Well, if you don't have the edge practice, you at least have to have the golden rain. So the golden rain is essentially a stop sign, and we first rebuild your electromagnetic field. Sacred anatomy, energy medicine practitioners rebuild the electromagnetic field first, and then after they do that, they teach you how to bring in the golden rain. And what the golden rain is a direct transmission to me in meditation after 3 months of begging for help. I got the download. And so I said, let's experiment. Let's try this. This is a crazy idea. Let's just try it. And so my, at the time, 4 apprentices and I tried it, and we found that it worked. And since then, I've taught this to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world. So the golden rain essentially is a stop sign. That's all it does. It doesn't protect you in a dark alley, you know. It doesn't help you do better on the SAT or the LSATs or or your driver's test. It doesn't help with any of that. But what it does is at the edge of the sacred anatomy, the golden rain says, stop. Because energy is intelligent and consciously being addressed, the golden rain says stop. And so here comes the disturbance. Oh, wait, there's somebody talking to me. There's an energy field around this person that is talking to me. Now, I want to make it really clear, this is not a shield. This is not protection. This is communication. And that's a big difference, because it's not done from a place of fear or victimization. Like, I'm so scared of energy. Okay, it's not that, all right? It's, I'm telling you, don't come through here. So it's power. That's what we have to realize, is when we start using our sacred anatomy and we start really interfacing with our own intelligence, with the universe, we're safer. Less anxiety. So the golden rain is essentially a stop sign. And the only thing it stops is electromagnetic disturbances. That's it. Because that's the only thing that causes this problem. So if you know the edge, you got your golden rain, it's working, you're doing those 2 things. If you learn nothing else, you're good to go forever. All right. Let's see now. There was also a question about the core sheath. Okay. So the core sheath is essentially a hub in the sacred anatomy. The core goes from 20 feet above your head. This is very much an approximation. Everybody's a little different, blah, 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 blah. Your core may not be 20 feet above your head, but most people is 20 feet all the way through, down your core, central channel, which is, of course, your spine. It goes all the way down and out and below your feet, down 20 feet. So it's huge. It's like 45 feet in length. It's big, 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 big. Now, some people's is not that long, so don't focus on that. So it's about 20 feet long approximately. And what happens is it's coated with a sheath. Now the core is in fact divine light. So it's pure, it's source energy. So the good news is at your center, you are divine. At your center, you are perfect. You will never be, hi Clara. You will never be injured. You will never be broken. You will never be snapped in half. You will never be distorted. Your core is sacred. Your core is pure. Your core is a tiny fragment of divine source, which of course cannot be fragmented. Therefore, you are holy and source-like at your core. Around the core is a sheath, and that sheath, it isn't really about protecting the core. It's about how do we use the core. So the core sheath is sort of the first conscious part that emerges after the core and the channel meet, because we have two divine currents. We have the core, and then we have the channel coming through. The channel comes through somewhere around the middle of your body, around your belly button, comes right through your body and goes out the back. So it's a big crossing, T. That's what it looks like. So this is the most primordial human experience right here. And we have a sheath that emerges almost immediately. As soon as the core and the channel cross, they both get sheaths. And the sheaths are like this radiant energy that's around both of them. And then out of the core sheath comes the four aspects. And the four aspects they emerge from the core sheath. So if you want to think of the real primary job of the core sheath is to hold the blueprint for who and what you are. So never mind DNA. This is it. The four aspects of the authentic self are the spiritual manifestation of the very beginning of humanity. That's where we begin. We begin with four aspects. And those four aspects are physical, which means manifest, emotional, psychological, and spiritual. So obviously, those four aspects are also divine in nature because they emerge out of the core. They actually come out of the core and they sit in the core sheath. And those four aspects are what you might call your higher self. That's what I remember years ago, people talking about the higher self in the late 60s. That's the first time I heard that. Before that, when I listened to my grandmother talk in the 50s, it was the God self. That's how she referred to it. So but she was, my grandmother was a spiritualist. She came out of the 20s and studied with Paramahansa Yogananda and several other spiritualists. And so she was into, spiritualism and she was sort of table tipping and card reading and tea leaf reading. My great-grandmother read tea leaves. So we go back about 13 generations in my family of women who did strange and wonderful things. My grandmother was very talented. She used to write on the chalkboard in her kitchen the time of day that the flowers were going to bloom in her garden. So if she wanted them to bloom in the morning, it'd be like 10 a.m. And I remember going out there at 11 o'clock at night. She'd say, the flowers are going to bloom at 11 o'clock. And I'm going, okay. So I'm a little kid, like 7, 8 years old, and we go out in the out in her beautiful big garden. And she lived in high mesa desert, you know. So her garden was all irrigated by well water, and you know, water was very precious, so little bit of water, but she had roses, you know, roses and jasmine and all these beautiful flowers. And there at 11 o'clock at night, I stood out there and everything opened. All the roses opened. And the scent was amazing, just the scent, you know. And I looked at her and I said, how did you do that? And she said, well, you know. I was like, okay. That was my grandmother there for you. Oh, well, you know. But she taught me quite a lot. But the way she taught was a little intense. Anyway, all right. So I think I've answered Christine's question, and I think Mark has his hand up. So thanks, Christine, for a great kickoff. Mark, what's your question? You're gonna have to come off your mute, sweetie.
Yeah, this is my first question.
Uh-oh. Okay, go ahead.
Would you please give definition and function of chakras?
A definition and function for chakras?
Yes. Function
Okay,
in terms of
well, first of all,
anatomy, of course.
Sorry, I missed that. Say again?
I said, by function, I mean in sacred anatomy, of course.
Yeah, well, yes. So, chakras. Okay. Oh, poor chakras. They've really been given a lot of weight to carry for all these centuries. But we have 13 chakras. And so there are chakras in the physical body. There are the traditional chakras that you've heard of, the crown, the brow, the throat, the heart, the solar plexus, the dantian, and the root chakra. Those are all the chakras that are located in the physical body. Now, there's many different types of chakras, right? There's major chakras, and that's what the 13 are. There are minor chakras, there are reflective chakras, and there are insignificant chakras. So there are lots and lots of chakras. So ultimately, a chakra is what happens when two things cross. So I'm making a chakra right now. Okay? So that's why you have in Tibetan medicine, for example, something like 8,000 chakras, and, you know. So when things cross, that creates a chakra. So it's an interaction. A chakra is an interaction. So if you understand that much, you have to say, of course, the next question is, well, what's the interaction? What's happening? So when we are talking about major chakras, which are the ones that everybody is talking about, when they're referring to chakras, they're talking about major chakras. Major chakras are located in the subtle anatomy. Reflective chakras are located in the human electromagnetic field. So they are reflective chakras. And what are they reflecting? The major chakra. So we have 10 reflective chakras, 13 major chakras. They are essentially an interaction point when two energies cross. So when you have the core and the channel crossing, it creates this explosion of consciousness, which is essentially a place called the Grand Cross, which could be thought of as a chakra, but it's actually not. Because what a chakra does is interact with the core and incoming energies that are attempting to join the core again. So what we have to go back to, what we actually have to understand is how the sacred anatomy is even formed in the first place. So I've talked about the core. I've talked a little bit about the channel. which you can think of as the father and the mother of the sacred anatomy. So they meet and all this excitement happens, right? Oh boy, you know. And one of the things that happens is individuation. So individuation is when the energies that are triple current, because core is a triple current stream moving in a downward spiral, all three of those currents moving independently but working together. The channel coming in is exactly the same. And those energies intersect and something happens. The first thing that happens is a kind of internal explosion of recognition. And in that moment, there is a discussion essentially between core and channel, because core is the great I am, and channel is also the great I am. So the great I am meets the great I am, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Wait a damn minute. Because I'm the I am and you're the I am. That doesn't work. We can't both be the I am because that means we're split. So that doesn't work. So we've got the I am and we've got the I am not. But what happens is the instant that they have separate identities, we individuate. So the core splits out and comes into single currents. And those single currents then create, can you show the core individuation picture? The single currents create the core individuating, and that's the very beginning of the subtle structure. So the subtle structure is forming and forming and forming. And the instant those energies separate from the core, what do they want to do? They want to go back. It's like the kid who says, I hate you, Mom, I hate you, Dad, I want to leave. They leave the first second their foot steps out of the door. They're like, well, I think maybe I need to go back and have breakfast. You know, I need to go back and sleep in my bed again. So there's this urge that human beings have of always wanting to go home, always returning home. And that's actually a primordial urge. That's primordial. You know, if we're from, you know, there we go. There's a picture of the individuation. So this is the nascent sacred anatomy. We call this core individuation. So the core is individuating. It's separating out, and those energies are moving out, and they're going into what ultimately will become the soul layer. But that's the very, very beginning of the sacred anatomy. So let's see a picture of the chakras. Any picture is fine. So chakras form when the energies are trying to return to the core. That's the impetus. I want to go home. And so we have on the left here is what I call a incoming soul pathway. That's on the left. On the right is the outgoing chakra stream, because the core in the center, it goes all the way through the top and bottom, and you see that explosion of energy right here in the middle. Those are the chakras right there. That's what happens. So just like the electromagnetic field is reflective, the chakra is reflective of the interaction between an incoming current and the downward moving, spiraling core. Now the core is more powerful in its movement because it hasn't separated out. But these are separated energies that have come together, and they're matching. The blue is going toward the blue, the red is going to the red, the yellow going to the yellow. And they're trying to mimic the core. They mimic the core. And as they're coming to the core, so come back to me, please, Cheryl. So the first thing that happens is there's this crossing. So before anything, before there's even a chakra, there's a crossing of the incoming current, and it's like the little energies are going, oh boy, I get to go home. I'm so excited. I'm going back to school. I'm going back to my home. I'm going back to everything. My mom is going to be there. Oh boy. And it goes into the core, and the energetic is so powerful that it essentially causes an implosion. So there's a kind of like sucking in, and then there's an explosion and a pushing out, and that's what forms the chakras at the back and the front of the core. So because the energies are coming in, they're coming in this way, and then they're coming down this way. You see what happens? It's a toroid implosion. So there's an implosion that occurs, and it interacts and explodes out. And then there's this conscious energy that's around the core. So some of the energies get through the core to the other side and are kicked out. And that's what we call the chakra current. So the incoming soul pathway has not been informed. It has not had the experience of being rejected by the Great Father, the core. And the back has had the rejection, has been informed, has gone to college, and now it's like, well, now I'm a heart chakra. Boom, I'm leaving. I'm going. I'm taking the energy of the heart chakra, and I'm going back to the soul layer. I'm going back to the big container, because that's all I know how to do. I know how to go back. And then when it goes back, it disassembles. So this is a very beginning understanding of what chakras are, but they're essentially a crossing point. And they're where one series of energies meets another series of energies, something happens and creates a chakra. So this is what I've been studying my whole life, because I see it around people. When I was 14, I had the whack on the head that allowed me to see at a much more intense rate than I was seeing already. And I got to see chakras, and I began to dissect them to understand what was happening. And the one I wanted to really understand was the heart chakra, because, I wanted everybody to love me, right? So I saw love radiating from the heart chakra, but there was all this other stuff going on. After my accident when I was 14, I couldn't see very well for about 4 years. I was struggling with what was in front of my eyes, and the chakras were so annoying. And I was raised in a family with a lot of there may have been love, but there was also a lot of anger. So when there would be anger exploding, it would color everything. I wouldn't be able to even see. So I did a lot of hiding. Hide in my room, or go hide under the couch, sit down on the ground, because I would know that it was there if I sat on it. The killer was there wasn't anything wrong with my eyes, so everybody was like, "Oh, you stop being so dramatic," No, didn't cure that. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, at least a beginning answering. Okay, Mark, you have another question.
No, follow up for this one. You explained to us the nature of the chakras. And so this is the first part of the question. And second part of the question, the functionality, in particular, which is known very well, relations between chakras and the endocrine system, for example. So these are very standard things. So this is just second, a follow-up to, once you explain to us the nature of the chakras, now so this was a theoretical part, and now applied part.
Okay, so the applied value, let's look at the throat, okay? Because the throat is easy, it's small, it's right here, everybody can touch it, okay? So the throat has in it a thing called the thyroid. And the thyroid is actually where the chakra is located. So all of the chakras in the physical body are located near major endocrine participants, the adrenals and the kidney area. So here we go. So if you look here at all the different glands and all the endocrine glands that are related, you know, the thymus and the heart chakra, the thyroid and the throat, the pituitary and the brow, the pineal and the crown, and on and on. And so it's really important to realize that physically what chakras do is essentially harmonize the physicality with the subtle. So the material and the subtle are harmonizing through the joyous expression of the endocrine system. So that is something that the chakras participate in. But the chakras are more than that even. I mean, they're a crossing point. People think of them as energy generators, and that's not quite it. They're more like energy distributors. And what they do is take incoming focused energy, and it goes through the first part of the chakra, which you saw on the outside. Let's see another chakra picture here. So the first part at the front is called the intentionality. So right here at the front, you see that fuzzy part there in the blue, the red, and the yellow. So there's an intention setting mechanism. The second the explosion has occurred. The explosion is where these intentions are carried and set. So if the crossing point is at the thyroid, at the throat, then the intention of that center of the body, that center of the spirit, is focused in intention. Now, the rear of the chakra is called receptivity, because the energies have to go through the core, and once they do, they come into the other side and they're received. So the intention is set, and then the information is occurring at the core, and the energy comes out the back. And in the back, in receptivity, there's a loving blending of the energies. Now, on the sides of the chakra that go around the right and the left of the chakra, it doesn't happen in the center, but on the right and the left, the yellow and the blue, what you see happening here is energies moving from intentionality into receptivity without going through the core. So in receptivity, these pure intentions blend into the energies that have gone through the core and that are informed by the core. And in the back, they blend. So the function of the chakra is to set intention and receive the knowledge, wisdom, presence, purpose, focus, love, and clarity of that core at the center of who we are. It receives it and it blends it with what our purposeful intention is at a soul level. Okay, come back to me. So it isn't about my electromagnetic field setting some kind of desire, because that's where my ego is, that's where my personality is. And as much as we think those parts of us are just so spectacular, they're just not. The most spectacular part of us is this 4 aspects and the beauty of our ability to attune to the truth of our very purpose for being. So our purpose for being is to create. That's it. To be co-creative. We are co-creative. We are constantly creating with divine source. So even in this moment, just these words are co-creative impulses, inspired by the core, inspired by the four aspects, directed by my soul's purpose. So it's extremely important to realize that each chakra, although related to an endocrine system spokesperson, the thyroid in this case, is actually fulfilling a higher purpose, which is to be essentially at the throat chakra, the voice, which is also happening in the throat chakra, the voice or the vehicle for truth from my most interior awareness. So each of the chakras has its own magnificent journey and its own job to perform. The heart, the giving and receiving of love and hate, which everybody goes, no, 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 no. Okay, that's also there. So everything has two sides. There's always a two-sided coin when we're looking at the sacred anatomy. So the throat is about speaking my truth, but it's also about lying. It's also about telling a not truth. So we are multidimensional. We are duality personified because we have a core and a channel. And we are striving in every step to be one. We are always moving towards the one. Gate gate para samgate bodhisvaha. We are always toward the one. So it's really important to realize, though, that in the manifestation of the chakra is not just all sweetness and light and peaches and cream. We've also got, a little bit of rot in there. You need the rot. You have to rot. We're all rotting. You got to make friends with the rot, guys. That's the only way it's going to go. Okay, Mark, one more question, and then I'm going to have to let somebody else have a turn.
Just quick follow-up to this one.
Okay.
My understanding has been that, okay, you're talking about duality, right?
I sure am.
Okay, and my understanding has been, and correct me if I'm wrong, that duality only exists in the material plane. There's no, in the space-time plane, there's no duality in beyond.
No, that's not true.
Please correct me.
That's true. There's duality everywhere. It's like the dark side of the moon. Everywhere.
But this is in physical plane. Yeah, in physical, that's what I'm saying. In physical, yes.
In the physical plane, yes. But
Of course.
Spiritually, there is also duality.
Can you please explain it?
Oh, God. See, when you put Ask Me Anything,
Elaborate
you're
on
going to
this.
get a Mark Pecker who's going to show up. All right. Yes, I think I can make an attempt, Mark. I'm making an attempt. All right, here we go. Putting on my seatbelt, wearing my tinfoil hat. I'm ready to go. So basically, in spiritual truth, we always have the not truth. Spiritual truth is not just existing in the material plane. Spiritual truth exists in everywhere. So whenever there is expression, there is not expression. Whenever there is yes, there is no. So you might say, oh no, that's just material. No, it's not. It's spiritually alive. So when you have life, there is death. That's material. When you have spiritual awakening, we're in the presence of greatness, and, a holy being has manifested. They are there. At any moment, they can become not a holy being. So that's a material person, yes. But if you're in the presence of an angelic being, And this is something the Tibetans really got. At any moment, that angelic being can become wrathful. So you have extraordinary love and acceptance and understanding, capacity, you know, and Kuan Yin, oh boy, I hit the home run. I'm in the presence of Kuan Yin. And oops, who's this Durga person? What's going on? And all of a sudden, death, destruction, and chaos happens. So it comes to reason. It stands to reason. Oh, I hope that's a good expression here. But it stands to reason that chaos and confusion and misdirection and obscuration and hiding are also things that happen in a spiritual realm. It isn't just the material plane where those things happen. First of all, if it didn't happen in the spiritual realm, it wouldn't happen in a material realm. We are not separate from the material, is not separate from the subtle. We are all part of the whole. And within the whole, there's the dark and the light, the good and the bad, the torchbearer and the asshole, you know? I mean, everybody is there, everything is there. And one of the hardest things there is, you guys, is to accept that that asshole over there who's being so difficult is also a divine being. Ugh. Right? Who wants to believe that? But it's true, because we are that. So I hope that, okay, that was an attempt. I hope my attempt was, got like pretty close. All right. Who else wants to ask a question besides Mark? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I've just started learning from reading your book, and I'm just thrilled to be here. So I have a couple of questions from the questions that have already been asked. And one of them is in regards to MRIs or mammograms or x-rays or any of those. How do you remove that from your electric field? Do you put the stop on it, but does then the imaging work?
Boy, that's a great question, because, you know, we have lots of very earnest people doing lots of experiments on human beings right now. And they're very earnest, and they're very loving and caring, and they're also wildly scientifically interested in what's in there. We got to find out what's in there. And I'm one of those people. I actually am really interested in what's in there. So we have to allow that these things will exist. If you know the golden rain, and I would urge you to have a session with the sacred anatomy energy medicine practitioner and say, I want to learn the golden rain when you go in. And that practitioner will do an electromagnetic field rebuild, will bring your electromagnetic field back to wholeness, and then teach you how to put the golden rain on. And then what you do is you wear your golden rain into your MRI or your mammogram. I'm going to tell you a story about my ultimate test for the golden rain. So my daughter got really, really sick about 15 years ago. And she had to have an MRI. And so much weird stuff had been going on for her. Even though she was an adult, she was really scared to get an MRI. And she was really scared about what was happening. So I had dropped everything and flown to Denver, and I was hanging out with my little girl, my sweetheart. And so I said to the guy doing the MRI, you know, I'd like to sit in the room with the MRI machine while she's getting the MRI. And he looked at me and he said, "You crazy? You know, why would you want to do that?" And I said, "Well, have you got some headphones?" So he said, "Yeah." So he gave me a pair of headphones, and I went in with my golden rain on. I went in and I sat near my daughter. She knew I was there when she got the MRI. I was perfectly fine. I had no negative effects. And I'm a person who's really sensitive to electromagnetic stuff, but I really was okay. So the golden rain really protected me from this assault, because just sitting in a room with an MRI machine, I mean, never mind being inside an MRI machine, it doesn't stop. The MRI stuff doesn't stop in the machine. It just exudes right out. So that's why they have all these like special, protective areas for the people who were doing the testing. So it worked. It blew my mind, actually. But it worked. And when I fly in an airplane, it's what I use. When I get a mammogram, which I do because I'm, living in an area where there's breast cancer, so I get a mammogram. When I do those things, I use my golden rain. I refresh it every single day. So go get a session and then have your MRI in complete confidence that you'll be okay.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Then the last question is, I'm in a program right now where we're learning to clear chakras. And after your explanation, I'm thinking, do we really clear the chakras or not? I mean,
No.
it seems like a waste of time after your description.
Yeah, it is a waste of time. And the programs that are teaching you how to clear chakras are actually working with the reflective chakras. Cheryl, can we put up a picture of reflective chakras? The reflective chakras are the ones that almost everybody works with. They're the ones that are like, oh, your chakra's not spinning, right? Your chakra stopped spinning. Or the other one they'll say is your chakra's spinning backward. So this is a reflective chakra rosette. How about a picture that shows the whole thing? That's the rosette. But now I see these things too. But there we go. That's it. That's the picture I want. So you see the major chakra there at the center with the 9 different sections. In the center is the core, and then on the sides are what are called the corridors. That's the whole chakra. But on the sides here, right at the point where the subtle and material meet, there's a kind of inspired awakening. And that's what I call the, where is it here? Let's see, what do we call it here? The POO of vortices. So it's a point of origin. So there's a point of origin, and then there's this kind of pushing out of vortexes, and there are 2 vortexes on either side that meet in the front. It's like the cornucopia. It comes around, they meet in the front. So come back to me. So one vortex is spinning this way, the other vortex is spinning that way, and they meet like this, and they form what we call the rosette. So the rosette is what most everybody teaches as the chakra. But there's one in the front and there's one in the back. And those energies are going out like this. And their job is to bring, because they're reflective, they're made out of electromagnetic energy. Their job is to carry the message from underneath, to carry that throat chakra's message of, this is my truth, this is who I am, listen. So that job goes out, and it goes out in a kind of a funnel shape, goes out like that, and it just goes out into the world. So it doesn't stop anywhere, it just keeps going. So it's how I express my deeper nature. So it acts as a kind of communications aid, and those vortices can stop spinning, and they need to be reconnected. But the reason that happens is because the chakra connectors of the major chakra, which is underneath and actually in the physical body, way in at the core, at the core and the spine, it stops spinning because the connectors are dropped. The connectors are what connect the chakra to the physicality. So in the throat, those connectors are into the thyroid. So if I have one part of my rosette isn't spinning, it's because there's a connector dropped. So I replace the connector fix the major chakra experience, then I reactivate the spinning of the vortex, which is essentially a delivery system. It's like, oh, and here's what I've got to say kind of place. So yeah, it's good to learn how to work with them, use all the systems that you need, whatever you're doing. Thanks be to the divine that the doors are opening for people to understand more. It's very interesting. This week I never go on YouTube. I don't like, not YouTube. I never go on Facebook. Facebook is the one I don't go on. YouTube I go on, but Facebook I don't go on. And what I saw, I went on for like 30 seconds. Two things came up. I mean, maybe algorithm, who knows? But two things came up. The first thing that came up was Donna Eden's class on subtle anatomy on Sounds True. And the other one that came up was Caroline Meese's Sacred Anatomy of Healing. So I thought, okay. And Norm Shealy, who worked with her, or whatever, he has my book. So I'm pretty sure something about sacred anatomy seeped into the juju around Miss Mays, Reverend Mays. And maybe that's where she got the idea. Anyway, maybe. I don't know. All I know, I've been calling it the sacred anatomy for a long time. So here's what we've got. We've got an awareness in the culture that subtle energy has some kind of form, that it has some kind of use. We've got people teaching classes about how to interact and interface and how to fix it, right? There's a lot of fixing involved.
Well, I guess part of it is also the idea of where are these ailments really being housed? Cancers or pain in joints or whatever emotional feelings we're having. Are they on the sheath? Are they on the chakras? Or are they on the different levels? Because I use the energy coming through me to do it, but I will say that at the end, probably an hour later, I'm drained for the rest of the day. And so clearly I'm using my electric field and not allowing, because we're taught to bring it in and let it come out of us. But I'm finding that the more and more I do these healings, the more I'm losing myself.
That's because the way they're teaching you is what I would call kind of a primitive attempt. I mean, I don't mean to be disparaging, and I am not disparaging of any other teacher's work. God bless them. May they be successful. Even Caroline. Okay, everyone. I'm joking. I hope you understand it's my weird sense of humor. But in truth, in point of truth, you are not meant to bring healing energies through your own body. You're not meant to do that. You're meant to witness other people receiving the divine source. You're meant to witness others receiving divine source energy directly, not you giving it to them. So the whole fallacy is the same fallacy that Western medicine is struggling with, which is, I make it happen.
Oh, no, I definitely don't believe I'm making it happen.
Right.
I'm asking for it to come through me.
Yeah, well, which is you making it happen. Because if it didn't come through you, well, I guess it wouldn't happen. But that's crazy. Of course it's happening.
Right. So where exactly do I go then to release within myself then? Even if I don't want to work on someone else, how do I release the ailments from my own physical body? What layer do I go to from how you structure it?
Okay, so there's not a magic bullet. It's not like one part of the body or structure is holding a disease or problem. It's like when I have seen some teachers, the stuff I see from teachers just kills me. So like people say like, well, cancer is about the heart chakra. It's like, no, it's not. Get a grip. No one illness is about a spot in anything. The physical body, or the sacred anatomy. So if you have cancer, it has to do with your soul. It has to do with your physical body manifesting some sort of an imbalance at the soul level. And the most primordial imbalance is that you're not expressing your soul's purpose. It's really simple. That's the most primordial imbalance. All disease. So it's even right in the word in English, dis-ease. So it's about being out of easeful expression of your own soul's manifest purpose. Like, why are you in a structure to begin with? Well, I talked about it earlier. Co-creative. We are here to co-create with divine source, and everybody's going to die some way, okay? Everybody. We're not meant to have eternal life in a physical body. Our subtle structure is the eternal life. So if you can get really conscious of your subtle structure in this life, and your physical body ultimately fails, which guess what? It will. It can happen today, tomorrow, or 100 years from now, but it's gonna go. And the fact of the matter is that the clearer you are about what you're here for, why you're here, and the more you're doing your thing, the more you're putting it out there, the clearer everything is going to get. So if you have a physical ailment that's manifesting in your physical body, it's moved to congealed light. Paramahansa Yogananda said famously in the 1920s, matter is nothing more than congealed light. So if you're manifesting in congealed light a disease, it has already moved to the densest presentation there is. Physical reality is dense. So what we have to do is realize that it needs to be approached in many, many different levels. So you approach physical disease, you approach medically, you approach spiritually, you approach psychologically, you approach, emotionally, and you approach spiritually. You approach it in all four of the aspects, and you must approach it that way. So disease is not located like if you have uterine cancer and you catch it really early, you're lucky because you can have a hysterectomy and you're good. You don't have to take chemo. You don't have to have radiation. You don't have to, suffer through that. But if you don't catch it right away and it starts to metastasize, it may go into an organ. It may move out of the uterus and go into the intestines. It may do all kinds of things, because cancer is misinformation at a cellular level, sending a signal out and creating cellular malfunction. And the cellular malfunction creates tumors and sometimes loose movement of cells throughout the structure, the physical structure. And, ultimately it is only trying to survive. So it's killing the container to allow itself to, who knows what it's trying to do over there. Cancer is a very interesting structure. It's like it's trying to create a whole new body, So we have ways that we treat it. We have ways that we treat cancer. We always say you need to have a physical doctor. You need to have a physician you're working with, because you cannot pretend that energy work is going to heal manifest physical problems. It can contribute to the healing. It may heal you, but you've got to be smart, and your energy worker is lying if they say that what they do will heal you of cancer or multiple sclerosis or diabetes. or cure your broken bone, you know? I like to think of it very basically. If you got a broken bone, you need to have it casted, you need to have it set, and then you can bring in all kinds of energies and work with it and do energetic casting and energetic mending and knitting, and you're going to heal faster. But energy work will not be the only thing you need. I don't care what kind of miracle worker you're working with. You still need to consult your physician. So there's truth, and there's what we know now, and there's where we're going. So the sacred anatomy is about 200 years ahead of its time. In 200 years, if we're still around, the sacred anatomy will be practiced in hospitals. But right now, it's just us. You know, the 100,000 or so people. All right, all the practitioners, raise your hands so they know who you are. Look at them. They're great, aren't they? Aren't they cute? I love them. Okay, yes. Now, I think I answered your question, and Jensen had her hand up. So I'm going to move over to Jensen.
I just want to mention to those of you who are new to sacred anatomy, energy medicine, I began my career as an auditor. And the mindset that I had was really to not trust until things are proven to me. And I was introduced to energy medicine by a modality that has been approved by the American Nurses Association. And I thought, how fantastic. Taught by a local hospital, etc. But when I discovered this work, it allowed me to appreciate the cosmology of something so much greater. And I just want to mention that as a practitioner and working with fellow practitioners, working with the same map, not only the chakra system, but all 7 systems, and the ability for us to come to the same conclusion, it is just an incredible practice. So I hope it's okay, Desda, that for me to just jump in. I just feel
Sure.
it's really important to know from someone that doubted everything to be so grateful for everything that I've learned. And yeah, the gift of understanding not only how this works, but the expansiveness of possibilities
Thanks, Jensen.
has taught me and
That's nice.
others. Thank you.
Yay, thank you, thank you. Yeah, a lot of the people that study with me are very sciencey in their orientation. I have geologists and chemists and physicists who've become practitioners. So it's really interesting to see people who are people of science with a real open mind, you know. And that's kind of that's the requirement actually for studying something that's outside the norm. Wow, look at the time. It just flew by. I actually have time for one more question. Unbelievable.
And Diane had written hers in the chat.
She did. Okay. What would you read it?
Yes, Desda, what is your take on the colors typically assigned to the body chakras in most other chakra systems?
I think they're very nice. I don't see those colors. Like, I don't see the heart as green, for example. To me, it's anatomy. To me, it's anatomical in nature. And that means that there's a consistency. I think color is very subjective. And the colors that I've seen in relationship to the anatomy are pretty consistent. That's what I see pretty consistently. When I first started to try to understand these cores and moving lights that I saw, I used to see the yellow current, what is now I think of as like a saffron yellow. I used to see that as green. I actually saw that as green for a long time. And so I thought it was, red in the center and then blue on the right side and then sort of a greenish yellow on the left. And what happened as I became clearer and clearer and clearer about what I was seeing is that green color dispersed. So I've always thought, well, gee, maybe that was what somebody was seeing when they decided that the heart was green. But I think they're more subjective, and I also think that they have to do with the electromagnetic manifestation of the reflective chakra. So one of the things is that because we have a 13 chakra system, we see chakras interacting with the structure that are outside of the electromagnetic field. So there's the star chakra, which is in the spiritual layer, which is way, way above the head. And then there's the divine gate above that, and then the chi pool below. So those three chakras, chi pool and the divine gate, are both located in the soul layer. So they don't have like a specific color. They're simply the anatomy functioning. Mostly what I see around everything, I've chosen to colorize the structure so people can distinguish things, but most everything is pretty golden. The light is, and to just even find a distinction, you kind of have to like ask it to show itself differently. So one of the things that happens when you're dissecting the sacred anatomy is you can interact with it. And if you really think that heart chakra is green, it will show itself as green to you because you're able to communicate with it. If you're talking to those things, especially the reflective chakras, you're reflecting your understanding, your egoic knowledge, your personality, your training, all the things you believe in as a religious person. You're looking at the world through that lens. So when you move outside of those predisposed notions and you start really looking at things clinically, the colors don't come into the picture. So Diane, did I answer that question well enough, or do you need more?
No, I don't think so. There may be a collective, agreement about the colors, and so everybody is maybe predisposed to see those. And
yeah,
we're creators. So
we sure as hell are.
What we see.
We sure as hell are. And the other thing that happens is if that old adage of if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if the only tool that anybody's ever given you is the heart chakra is green, then it's going to look green to you. So because the subtle anatomy is pure consciousness, it inspires the response. So it gives you what you want, which is very interesting. It's one of the principal understandings that is really essential to get before you try to scientifically prove anything. So you can't, it's like the idea of going into an experiment with a preconceived notion of how it should end. That's what we found early in 1970. Well, no, it was 73. I was a lab rat for Stanley Krippner's work with Dakin Laboratories, and I was one of the people who sat in the room trying to move the dial, and do all those, look at the cards and all that shit. So I did that, and we had a little group, and there was another woman who was getting her PhD, lovely woman, and she organized all the psychics to get together, and there was going to be a standardization of psychic abilities. And I started to laugh the first moment that I heard that. I'm like, how in the hell are you going to standardize that? Standardize smell? We can all agree that's a gardenia, but for somebody, it's not going to smell nice, you know? So this is the thing. It was like the scientists, and we saw this with, in fact, the psychics got together and had a conversation about the lab assistants who were running the studies. We said, that guy, you know that guy, can you ever do anything when that guy's in the room? It was like, nope, we can't do a damn thing when that guy's in the room. And that guy believed that none of this was real, you know. So the mindset of the observers was affecting the experiments. And the psychics were pretty clear about that. The scientists were like, well, that can't be. You know, like, it's about consciousness. So it's interesting to note that awareness of what you're doing and how you're influencing the world, let's make this be our conclusion. So how we approach the world makes a difference. The belief you hold about the potential and possibility for others makes a difference. How we inspire those around us is by being clear that we are looking at manifestations of divine consciousness. Everyone is out there doing their damn level best, even if it's really awful what they're doing. They think they're on purpose. And if we can see them with compassion, we can influence them to begin seeing others with compassion. So holding the light as high as you can in this chaotic time, critically important. Not just for the other people in the world, but for you. So this helps us not live in our anxiety and our fear and our victimhood, right? This helps us be proactive. So proactive people know that peace is possible, love is profound and conquers all, but that evil also exists. And it's not you can't close your eyes to it. You can't close your eyes to it. So I went to the rally yesterday. Everyone there was over 70. I mean, it was like 1,000 people over 70, you know, with their walkers, holding signs. It was pretty entertaining. Anyway, so the speakers got up and talked about, you know, how horrible all this stuff is. And we got to change all that stuff. And the energy of victimhood was so huge, so profound. Empowerment is the thing that you need. So the final speaker got up, and she was a lot closer to that. But, you know, if we're really going to change the state of the world, and I'm not thinking just about our little country, but everywhere, if we're going to change the state of the world, we have to evolve ourselves to understand that we are not just material, physical beings who need to be fed and clothed, but we are spiritual beings who need to be allowed to open our hearts. So there is so much more that we can offer. So that's my conclusion for today. It was really fun to see you and be with you. I want to let you know a few things about what Sacred Anatomy Academy is bringing to the world. Oh, yeah. So what do we got? Cheryl? Let's see something. Sacred Anatomy Secret. Cheryl Berry is going to be teaching it. We have, at this point in time, 6 or 7 wonderful practitioners who are going to be teaching the Sacred Anatomy Secret, and also the Edge practice, the Edge Express, which is a 3-hour class, not 6 weeks anymore. Came to the realization that we got to get this stuff out there. We got to get it out there fast with a lot of focus and clarity. And so there are some wonderful teachers who've stepped up And in the next couple of months, you're going to be seeing more and more of them. But Cheryl is the tip of the spear. She's out there right now. So if you want your friends to learn the edge practice or you want to learn it yourself, just check out that link down there, saedgeclass.com, or you can go to Sacred Anatomy Academy and you can see all of that information. What else have we got, Cheryl? Oh yeah, hygiene coming up October 22nd. If you've taken the edge, you want to learn what to do with it. You want to learn how to take care of yourself. This is the free introductory class for energetic hygiene, which is coming up right after that. And there are all kinds of things you learn. It's a 6-week class. The prereq is the edge practice. And by Christmas Day, you can have all of this self-care stuff down pat and probably learn more in those 6 classes than you have in a 4-year course of, monkeying about with clearing. Just saying. Okay. Get my book. Get my book. My book is fun. And it's been, a lot of nice things have been said about it, but it's still out there. It's been out there for 14 years. Yes, I will do a version 2 eventually, but not yet. Okay, and then Ask Me Anything. The next one's August 22nd. So come and play. Yeah, and here's the new offering that I'm giving in this year. I really came to the conclusion that we need to bring people back to center and lift their spirits. So I'm going to do a 30-minute thing each month going forward, starting October 5th. It's on a Sunday morning from 10 to 10:30, and will be available. If you sign up to be part of that, it's going to be completely free. If you do, you will be able to receive the video. And the Sangha Garden, thank you, Barbara, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's basically a meditation and along with some skills to use. So is that everything, or do we have one more thing? That's it. All right. So that's our stuff that's available. Love you, Barbara, Lori, Chenson, Clara, Fiona, Christine, Nella, Diane, Rita, Kirsten, Mark, Eliza, Cheryl. I love you guys. Bobby Z, I love you. Stay tuned, Nella. Come back. I'll see you soon, and good luck in your clearing class. There's a lot more for you, but I just can't do it all right now today. So. But check in, get a session with one of our practitioners. All right, love you. Keep it real. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.